Hi, my name is Jenn Coffey, and I'm from Manchester, New Hampshire. I represent Rights and Democracy and People's Action. There was a time when I worked multiple jobs. I had a full-time job in the hospital, part-time job in an ambulance service. I tutored EMS students, and I was a New Hampshire state representative. Then I got breast cancer, my second cancer. I walked in a fully functioning EMT, and I was wheeled out. I spent years suffering and over 2 years locked in a bed. I developed CRPS, complex regional pain syndrome, the most painful disease known to medicine, the suicide disease. 70% of people with it, young and old, will consider suicide, and it shouldn't be that way when treatments are available, but insurance companies refuse to cover them. I walked into my doctor's office with a pre-made plan to sign my DNR. With a lot of conversations with multiple providers, friends, and family, I didn't sign it that day. Instead, I went home and I sold everything I could find of value. I lost my house, sold my car, started a GoFundMe so I could beg for the money. I screwed up. In my drugged up haze of agony and confusion, I signed up for a Medicare Disadvantage plan. And I had been held hostage and had my life hung over my head by the grotesque greed of United Healthcare. And what they did to me is happening to millions of Americans every day. People are left to suffer while the medication they need is locked behind a door in a pharmacy or the hospital next door to them. They suffer while predatory organizations overfill their bank accounts and then they cry they're too poor. We are the only country on the planet that allows corporate greed to override best practice in medicine. The only ones who allow companies like United to use computer programs, AI, to deny care. I have rare illnesses, and because of that, there's nothing, and I mean nothing, approved to treat me. It's a loophole that allows these profit-driven entities to legally let me suffer and die from torture to preserve their profit margins. While United Healthcare made over $8 billion in profit in only 3 months, it still isn't enough. They raised their premiums, cut dental care down to cleanings and x-rays, increased my visit copays to $75 a visit per specialist, and that only gets me in the door. If I stay overnight, that's another $500. They refused to cover some of my medications, leaving me to pay cash. At one point, they even told me they were no longer covering seeing the therapist who's treated me since I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Why? Because they claimed Medicare didn't cover therapy. I had to file 5 appeals to finally get one of the bills paid. I had to file appeals on almost all of my therapy visits last year. I lost my dignity to illness, to countless procedures for 2 different rounds of cancer, but having to repeatedly beg for my therapist bills to be paid was humiliating. I felt I had to justify why she's a vital part of my care team. No one should be forced to do that. I'll carry the shame of selling everything I own, of having nothing left to show for myself till the day I die. If I hadn't done what I did, I wouldn't be here with you. I'd be dead. Of that, I have no doubt. When I needed infusions, my so-called health insurance wouldn't help. I couldn't get anyone to even help me find a process to get it covered. I had to go public. I had to get help from People's Action's Care Over Cost team. We did a petition, we wrote letters to the CEO, and I made so many videos. I asked for help from my United States senators and CMS. I even went to Minnesota to United Healthcare's headquarters, and I stood in their lobby and I told them I didn't want to die. Isn't that what we all want, right? We want more time with those we love. I lost track of the countless hours I've spent on hold. Sometimes 3 hours would go by and then they would just hang up on me. I spent my life saving and caring for others, and now that it's my life on the line, well, United Healthcare has 2 corporate jets with very expensive gas tanks. That's where the money goes, along with their mansions, their multiple houses. No chemo for you, they need a new jet ski. Your kid needs a prosthetic? Forget about it. They've been eyeing a nice diamond necklace for that wife. We pay into the Medicare system our whole lives, with much of it ending up in the profit columns of billion-dollar companies that don't want people like me alive. How can they buy jet fuel if they have to pay for care? Obviously, they don't want to fly with us peasants. It's disgusting, and it's time our nation woke up and realized the health insurance industry is the greatest fleecing of America. They do nothing to increase positive outcomes in healthcare. Just one look across the Atlantic shows us what's possible if people come before profits. My congressional candidate has signed the pledge. Now it's time for yours. Thank you.